How's it going? Kevin Cleary here with The View from the Pew. And today I want to talk about something that's been in the news and been discussed quite a bit. And so kind of back to the original purposes of these videos is to give a perspective on some current events. And this one is one that has gone back and forth quite a bit and gotten quite a lot of press. And that is, in Toronto, there has been a request by the Toronto District School Board that City Council make a public statement that they're going to enforce public nudity laws that already exist in Canada, so that there will be no full nudity at the Pride event. Now, I should point out that this is not a unique to Toronto situation. Other cities have had similar discussions and have put similar laws in place. And there's been a similar response from organizers and some, and I repeat some, in the LGBT community. And the responses are what really surprised me, and that's why I'm creating the video. What I would kind of have expected to happen is when this request is made, look, the Toronto District School Board would like to put a float in and maybe have some kids involved. The organizers would go, you know, that brings a touch of class, that brings a touch of social acceptance to the event. So yeah, that makes sense to say, let's tone down the nudity. Let's, put some clothes on. Good. That has not been at all the general response. And I say general because there are those who have said just that. I want to share with you a comment from one gay man commenting on the same situation in Dallas, Texas regarding their Pride event. He said, quote, commenting on a picture of a float with a bunch of scantily clad men wearing underwear and thrusting their hips around, says this: "The above picture is precisely why I never attend the Pride Parade, an excuse to condone behavior unbecoming of my pride. As a gay man, both times I've attended, I've been disgusted by the indecency and complete lack of any pride." And I think that was what I kind of expected to get in response to the request to limit the nudity and, in fact, just get rid of it. There's no need for it. And so I'm a little surprised. Instead, I'm going to address some of the comments that are made, and I'm going to speak to some of these. The first is the comment, which is completely insane, that the request that there be no nudity is from a place or from an attitude of homophobia. Now, to be honest, this is kind of shocking to me. And I guess it's not, because it seems like anybody who ever says anything pertaining to homosexuality is accused of homophobia. And maybe we should get our definitions straight. Homophobia means a fear of those who are attracted to the same sex. And I don't think anyone's afraid of that. Maybe someone thinks it's weird. Maybe someone, I know Phil Robertson's comments got a lot of press. He just said, I can't imagine why anyone would have that sexual persuasion. Well, that's not fear. That's confusion. That's a lack of understanding. And I would say I share that lack of understanding, and probably most straight people do, because you look at a member of the same sex and you go, yeah, sorry, I get nothing. That's not attractive to me in any way. That's not fear. I hate to tell you, but that is not fear. So it makes no sense to claim that homophobia is the driving force behind that any more than, let's say tomorrow, it's probably going to be too cold tomorrow. So let's say in a week, when it's supposed to be a little warmer, I decide to go walking down the streets of my hometown with no clothes on. And when the police pull me over and say, look, you can't do that, you're going to have to get in the back of our car and get yourself covered up. And I claim, you guys are just heterophobic. No. It doesn't even make sense to make that accusation in that situation. And so let's carry on. Next is pertaining to the purpose of the event and the rights of the individuals involved. There have been a number of comments and articles and videos made that express something along the lines of the sentiment that if you don't let us do this, if you don't let the nudity go on, you're taking away our ability to make our point. You're taking away our ability to make the statement that we want to make with this event. And I'm going to comment on this as a preacher. Not from the moral perspective, but from the perspective of a person who has to stand in front of an audience and make a series of points all the time. If you have to take all your clothes off to make your point, if you can't make it by logical argumentation, then you don't have a point. You're not worth listening to. And so if you really need to take all your clothes off to make your point, then maybe you should cancel the whole thing because you're wasting your time and everyone else's. Next, you're kind of talking about out both sides of your mouth here because you're claiming that the event has this purpose of kind of in-your-face sexuality and overblown, outside of the box, abnormal, aberrant behavior. But then at the same time, you're going to court trying to say we want to be treated as normal and equal. So which one is it? Because if you want to be treated as abnormal, then you need to take a certain course of action. But if you want to be treated as normal and accepted and respectable, then you need to take a different course of action. And what people are asking in regards to this event is that you take the course of action that leads to respect and acceptance and normalcy. Associated with that is this event was not meant to be family friendly. And someone else said, it's not fair because they're not letting us be who we are. This is something that comes up a lot in this discussion. I'm not allowed to be who I am if I can't express myself sexually. Well, one, there are lots of people who are unable for all kinds of reasons to express themselves sexually. Maybe it's a guy who just can't get a date. Maybe it's a guy who's, asked people to marry him and no one seems to want to, or a girl who, no one's asked her to get married and she just can't, Does that mean she can't express herself? Does that mean she's somehow being limited in her ability for a fulfilled, normal, happy life? Sorry, it doesn't. It may be that part of life for some people is just that they don't enjoy a healthy sexual relationship. And you can still enjoy a full, normal life. What about someone who, gets in a bad accident and is damaged some way from the waist down? And so it's illegitimate to say you're not letting us be who we are. Further, it's even more illegitimate to suggest that if you can't walk down the street naked, you're not allowed to be who you are. Because I bet anyone who's saying that goes through 95% of their life fully clothed. Lastly is the comment that it's not meant to be family friendly. Again, this is disingenuous. Again, this is talking about both sides of your mouth. Because on one side, you're saying, we want to have this event that's just anti-establishment and it's not family friendly and we don't want it to be associated with that kind of thing. And then next week, somebody's going to be in court saying, no, you have to legitimize my right to be recognized as a normal family, to adopt children, to get married, all of that normal family stuff. And so again, I ask, which one is it? Do you want to be a normal, healthy, happy family? Or are you going to insist that, no, my lifestyle is abnormal and I'm different and I want everyone to notice that I'm different? And that brings me to the last thing that I want to bring up. And that is, think of myself for a second. What possible reason or what possible expectation should I have for everyone around me to acknowledge and sort of make light of my sexual preferences? I can tell you right now that I have never gone around and talked to my neighbors about what my sexual preferences are. And I haven't gone around and asked them about theirs. Because it's not an issue. It's not something that I want everyone knowing about. It's not something that I care that everyone knows about. It doesn't make any sense. Even more, it would make even less sense for me to insist that I need to have a parade to make sure that everyone everywhere knows what my sexual preference is. If what's really desired is equality and normalcy, then having a parade and certainly acting out sexually at that parade is completely outside of the realm of things you might want to do to achieve the goals that apparently you have. And so I'm reminded of Jeremiah chapter 8 and verse 12, where God speaks to Jeremiah and says that one of the problems with the people of Israel is their blatant, open sin. And he uses this phrase where they don't know how to blush. They have no sense of what is for public viewing and what is private. They have no sense of modesty. And so what I'm suggesting is that the organizers of this event and some of those who are involved in the event have no sense of modesty. They have no sense of pride, of self-respect. Finally, by way of explanation, for those of you who are watching this and going, why is this happening? Why is this discussion even taking place? You need to know that sexuality, and especially aberrant sexual behavior of all kinds, and for those of you who want to say, Kevin is just, against homosexuality. Well, no, I am equally against any kind of sexual expression that happens outside of a committed marriage between a man and a woman. That could be a guy and girl who have a one-night stand. Could be a guy and girl who aren't married who decide to live together. Could be any number of situations, pornography included, that are a sexual expression taking place outside of a committed marriage relationship, because that's what God says is the standard. That's how God has designed us to experience sexuality. And in fact, in Romans chapter 1, God tells us that as a society moves further and further away from him and his influences, that human sexuality and human perversion and human expression of sexuality outside of the confines that he's designed for it is going to increase. And so what we're witnessing here is just that increase happening in real life. That's all I've got to say about that. I know I got a little frustrated there, but that's because some of this stuff just doesn't make sense to me. And if you're homosexual or lesbian and you're watching this, I would love to discuss it with you. I know people who are of that persuasion, and guess what? I treat them with the same love and respect and dignity that I treat everyone else with. But I don't accept that their choices about life are moral choices, are godly choices. And that's true of a whole bunch of people that I know in a whole bunch of different situations, including myself sometimes. And so we're not talking about putting down a group of people. We're not talking about mistreating anyone or failing to give anyone the rights that every human deserves. We're talking about an event at which some things are happening that actually detract from the stated goals of an organization, and considering the legitimacy of those events and the claims made associated with those. Thanks for watching. That's the view from the pew.